one of the most creative rappers around right now, hailing from Detroit, Danny Brown, is back. You should know by now Atrocity Exhibition. If you're a music nerd, everyone who is involved in music knows that album. It was a wild, wild, wild game changer in 2016 that floored everybody ever. Danny Brown had already proven himself on previous albums, but this was the one that got everybody completely shocked. Like some of the beats he was rapping over, Ain't It Funny and When It Rained, they were just like no other. There was no one else out there that was really willing to take a beat like that and rap over it. And with it being considered one of the best albums of the decade, of course, expectations for You Know What I'm Saying were a little shaky. How'd you go from that to a new album? How'd you top it? How'd you progress? Where'd you go from there? And well, since 2016, which is apparent on this album, Danny Brown has undergone quite a lifestyle change. He wasn't in the best headspace when making Atrocity Exhibition or even albums prior to that. He was, taking a lot of drugs. He had poor mental health, but he has managed to turn his life around in a very admirable way, and he's cleaned up. He seems to be in a better place mentally these days. And so you can tell that with You Know What I'm Saying, he wanted to kind of mature a little bit, less frantic wildness, rapping a bit more, I guess, in a normal way as opposed to what he was rapping like before. And for me, I think You Know What I'm Saying's turned out really well. I think this is a very, very good album. You see, the thing that people are forgetting, which is something I've not noticed so far in terms of like the discussion surrounding this album, is that Danny Brown is still flowing in ways that most rappers today aren't doing. There is no rap that sounds like Danny Brown. His cadence, his weird nasal delivery, that's still all there on this album, but there's just different renditions of the way he raps over different types of beats. And once again, it's showing that each album he's progressing and he can still make pretty damn good music while changing his style and his approach. Is it as forward thinking and mind blowing as Atrocity Exhibition? No. Does it have to be? No. This is still a Warp Records release, so of course it's still got that edgy experimentation on a few of the tracks. You've got Belly of the Beast, you've got Three Tears, which has that kind of bouncy beat. You've still got really, really interesting names all across this album. You've got Paul White on production, I think, on the title track. You've got JPEG Mafia producing, got Standing on the Corner. You've got Q-Tip executively producing the entire thing, and he does take control of a few of the tracks. And so it is kind of a bit all over the place at times. You don't really always have the best track-to-track flow, but it's not such a problem when the album is already quite short at 34 minutes, and the tracks themselves are well produced, and the features come through strong as well. I've already mentioned Three Tears, a great beat of a song here, produced by Peggy. The features coming from Run the Jewels LP, definitely having the best verse, I think. Killer Mike's is okay, it's alright. It's not the best on the whole track. I'd say it's probably the weakest, actually. What is a bit of a shame about this track, though, is that Danny Brown starts things off, he does the first hook, then he kind of just sits back and lets the guys take over for the rest of the song. But it's not like a track like Really Dough, where it is a posse cut, so of course he's gonna do his verse and then everyone else does their verse. It's not the same as that. It just does really feel like he sits back and lets them take over, and then it feels just like a Run the Jewels song by the end. And I guess while I'm on the critiques, I suppose Bong Yo doesn't really provide a very interesting feature on Belly of the Beast, in my opinion. I think actually the entire track is a mess, to be honest. This is what I was saying about like the edgier production on Warp. You can definitely tell this is a Warp Records release with a track like this. I just think that continuous loop that comes through, the like woo, it's just really annoying. It's very off kilter and very strange and odd, but it just doesn't quite land for me, not in the same way he's done in the past with a track that's very strange and odd. And also his bars on this one are definitely some of the weakest across the whole thing. He has some really strong moments across the album with his bars though. I mean, Dirty Laundry, I was uncovering funny lines after every listen. Even from that first listen, which was already like a good listen, it has gotten better as time's gone on. The whole fuck a bitch 2 times, call it deja vu thing, which is it's not even that funny, but I think the way he says it is just what sells it. Just his really weird personality just makes it what it is. And I think this was the expectation, that this album was going to be a bit more light-hearted, with this track being the lead single, but I don't think that's actually been the case. I don't think it's his comedy album that people were expecting, because there actually are some really, really deeper moments lyrically on the album. Best Life being definitely one of them, and definitely one of the best tracks on the entire album. What a great song this is. That soulful 90s production coming from Q-Tip is just so on point. The soulful singing, the sample that he uses is just so 90s, and yet it feels so fresh as well. But lyrically, Danny's talking about his come up, his rough upbringing, the lifestyle he was surrounded by when he was younger. And once you get to the chorus, you realize that Danny has come to this mindset of, nah, I can't keep fucking up. I've got to change things. I've got to live my best life. I can't ruin it when there's only one life I have. And in a sense, it's kind of cliche to say that, but I think with the background history of Danny Brown, knowing where he came from, I think it actually hits that much deeper, because you see the progression. He was just such a different person 3 years ago, and now he's gotten to a point where he realizes he's got to make a change. And again, that's admirable, I think. On Theme Song, he points out how he was once that one guy who was just known for having no front teeth, and here he is today looking so much better than what he was. And Theme Song seems to be like a direct shot at somebody, but I don't know if it is, but I can't quite figure out who it would be. But even still, you can get the impression that he's essentially attacking younger rappers. Essentially just the younger type of people in the rap game right now who have these egos, who think they're better than everyone else. But Danny comes through and is like, nah, you know, I was the one that was influencing shit. I'm now at the number one, you're just at number two. It's typical brag rap coming from an older veteran wanting to teach the younger generation a few lessons. But I think Danny makes it his own with his lyrics, especially with the really clever line where he says, "Listen here, little Richard," you know, which has this double meaning to it, because essentially he could be saying, "Listen here, little dick," Richard, dick. You know, you get what I'm saying? But also, not only that, Little Richard was known for having like this big personality, so at the same time it has that extra meaning to it of these younger rappers who have these bold personalities thinking they know everything. And then to add to that, on the chorus, he says, "Got a little richer, now their head all bigger." So there are little great moments like that you can unpack in the album, with Danny being such a good lyricist that he is. You could even argue that he's ahead of what he was rapping like before in terms of his lyrics. The title track is very simple, but I think it's very effective too, where he just lays off all these little things that makes his life harder, but he's talking to the audience in the sense that he's, you know, trying to get them to relate to it by being like, you know what I'm saying, you know, you know this, you get this, you were here too, I'm also here. And the feature that was on Belly of the Beast works so much better here, I think. His soulful inflections on the chorus really work nicely and break up the song's beat really well. And the chorus also adds a nice positive message as well, showing that, you know, you can be at the bottom and make your way to the top. How he says, like, you once had no job, you used to be broke, now you're sober, you've turned it around. And I appreciate Danny wanting to present that message, and it works out really well. On the track after this one though, Danny completely switches things up, once again showing his versatility. He's coming through with his Triple X type rapping here back in like 2011, with his really aggressive flow. His delivery is just so in your face. Then with JPEG Mafia on the chorus with that Pharrell type hook, It's just such a crazy moment on the album. Like this here again showing that Danny Brown's still got this wildness in him, that fire hasn't gone away. It's a moment that completely hits you and you just were not expecting it at all. It's a great track. I think then the placing of the track after this, though, featuring Blood Orange, is kind of a bit of a killer, to be honest, because it's not a particularly bad track, but I just feel like it's very forgettable when you put it in between the track with Peggy and then the closing track Combat, which are possibly two of the best songs on the whole thing. It just kind of makes me want to skip Shine. Blood Orange comes through with decent singing on the chorus. He's changing things up with his voice, to be fair, but yeah, I don't know, it just kind of comes and goes. And I'm just ready for the closer, because the closer is just so damn good. Combat and Best Life, I think, are some of Danny's best ever songs. You don't have to agree with me on that, but for me personally, I would put them up there in his like top 20 all time, because I think these songs are just so damn good. And if you look at the production credits, Q-Tip did in fact take control of both of these tracks, but I just absolutely love the beat on that closer. Danny's lines as well, the Elvis line is pretty funny. In a grotesque way, but yeah, I adore this one. He ends the song in a very dark way when he's talking about snitching, which is kind of relevant to what's been going on with 6ix9ine at the moment, which is a bit weird. I don't know if it's something he added in after or it just is coincidence that he made this verse while that was going on. I don't know. Q-Tip has a vocal appearance on the track too. I think that part's really catchy. It actually reminds me of Conrad Tokyo from Tribe's last album, which is a bit weird. It's not like it sounds exactly the same, but it just reminded me a little bit of it. So yeah, there are some really fantastic moments. I mean, I've been very positive throughout my review here. Aside from those couple of moments that aren't really that strong, Belly of the Beast, Shine, the opening track every time just breezes by. I don't think it's quite strong with the way it sounds. I think it's a bit too scarce in the beat to really have an impact on me. Even though Danny's rapping on that track is really good, it just doesn't stick with me. So unfortunately, like, those moments do drag it down just a little bit. Danny Brown is in a much better place than he ever has been. So to expect another album like Atrocity Exhibition is a bit unrealistic. I mean, fair enough, if this is a letdown for you, I can sort of see why. But I think this, for me, is as good as some of his other work. So yeah, for me, a 7 out of 10. As good as Triple X, to be honest, for me personally. But I don't hold the album as highly as other people do, so I do see that some people will see this as a bit of a letdown. But nah, not for me. I think some of his best songs appear on here, and it's a very consistent album throughout as well. Definitely a few duds throughout, as I've mentioned, but yeah, a strong album nevertheless. Thank you for watching my review. Hopefully you got something out of it. Let me know what you think of this album. Have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already, that would be great. Consider donating to Patreon, that would be cool too. Have a good day. You know what I'm saying? Bye.